Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be making a progressive techno track like Artbat from start to finish. If you want to hear the finished track, you can hear it now. At the timestamp at the top of the description, I will give you a moment to do that. And yeah, so, as always, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets and everything from this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already been available since yesterday. And yeah, let's get started. So, I got this little sample pack here that I put together. Just got a bunch of different, mostly like percussion sounds, to be honest. There we go. So, I'm going to start with the kick. I've got this kick. The type of kick you want with this style, let's go to 125 BPM. The type of kick that you want typically would be more of like a bassy, kind of like warm and fat kick like this. Like, it's not like other styles of techno where you're trying to just get the hardest kick possible, but you want something that's got a lot of body to it. Kind of in like the low end like this. We'll take that and shorten. There we go. And then I'll put a bit of drum bus on it. Again, not going for like the hardest kick of all time, but we still want to do a little bit of something to make sure it's still going to hit hard, especially like when you put it in a mix with other tracks. Like, you need to pay attention to this stuff because if you don't do stuff like this, what's going to happen is when you try to mix this with other tracks, it's just not going to quite, like, it's not going to quite stand up. But you can hear this is pretty fat. So, cool. So from here, I'm going to check the tuning of the kick. I'm pretty sure it's in F sharp. It is. Alright, there we go. Cool. So, the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to make a bass. I'm going to actually make 8 bars here. And I'm going to set that loop. There we go. Let's get rid of this audio track. And these. There we go. So I'm going to use analog for the bass. You know, I like using analog a lot for the style. This is definitely the type of vibe you want, is like, you know, warm analog synths that just sound very, like, it's like simple sounds, but they're just very powerful and strong in the mix. So I'll make a little bass here. What we're going to do is I'm going to get a square wave. We're going to turn the pulse width up. There we go. And let's see. I'm going to try putting that up an octave. There we go. You can hear that adds like some fatness to it. And it gives it kind of a more old school kind of vibe as well, I feel like. From there, I'm going to take the low pass and just bring down the sustain. And we'll also set the amp envelope. Alright, there we go. And then I'll make a little bass line with this. So we're going to go super progressive with this one and just stick with one note, at least for this part. I might add like another part in the progression later in the track, but right now I just want to get that. You know, just that like driving, ongoing bass note like that. There we go. Like I said, just very driving. And really pulling the groove along. I'm going to add a bit of unison. Makes it a bit bigger sounding. Gives it more of that like old school kind of Juno type of vibe. Definitely a good vibe. Got a bit of saturation on here as well. And then I'm also going to put a little bit of echo on here. This might seem odd, but what we're going to do is I'm going to use the high pass filter. So we're just going to be getting echoes pretty much like that, but it's going to just add a little bit of like, a little bit more space and kind of vibe to the sound. Alright, sounds good. Let's add a bit of a sidechain as well. And just sidechain that to the kick slightly. Definitely for the progressive sound, this is important. And then I'll also get an EQ on there. And we're just going to cut a little around 100 hertz. Alright, sounding pretty good. So then I'm going to put the kick and the bass into a group together, and we'll do a bit of processing on there. Going to put some drum bus on. You guys already know that I was going to do this. Sounding pretty good. Let's tweak the bass a little. Yeah, let's do like that actually. This like so simple, the notes, because it's just one note that like you gotta really play around with the groove, I feel like, to get it, you know, to something interesting like this. And we could even maybe just yeah, there we go, that's got that feeling to it. Alright, sounds pretty good. So what I think I'm going to do next is I'm going to just make a sub bass really quick. So what we'll do is we'll group these together. And now we have an instrument rack, so what I can do is I can just put, like, say an operator underneath this. And we can make a sub bass out of that. So for the sub, we'll just get a saw wave, shorten it a little, and then I'll filter it down. And then on this one, we'll cut out some lawns. So this just makes it a little bit cleaner. You'll notice the difference. Like, it's still going to sound pretty much like the same bass line, especially because we use the saw wave for the sub. But everything's just going to blend together a little bit better now, and it's going to sound a little bit more professional and full, I feel like. I'm going to add some saturation on the sub as well. Get that, like, real fatness. And then we will drum bus them together. There we go. Put a little bit of EQ into the drum bus. Okay, there we go. So you can hear the bass is sounding pretty fat now. We just gotta mix it a little bit better. And cool, there it is. So we got the kick and the bass there. So that's really the foundation, you know. Anytime I'm making techno, I like to start with the kick and the bass, or even just like the low end, because sometimes, you know, you have a rumble kick, and that's kind of just all your low end, your kick and your bass right there. But yeah, so sounding pretty good. Let's name this low end. And I'm probably going to do some stuff with the bass as well. Like, I'm definitely going to automate that filter frequency on the mid bass. Yeah, we can do stuff like that all throughout the track. But cool, sounding pretty good to start out with. So from here, we've got the foundation for our track. I'm going to try and write a sort of melody. We're going to just dive right in here with sort of like the main theme. This is what I typically like to do when I'm making this type of a track. You know, a lot of times with other styles of techno, and you guys have seen in the videos, I'll start with the kick and then like bring in the hi-hats and then kind of like get that stuff going. But with this style where it's very melodic and progressive, I like to just start with, you know, get like obviously the kick and bass in there. and then just start playing with melodies. So I'll take this, just bring it down a little. There we go. Let's see what we can come up with. That's kind of cool. We just have to space it out a little bit better, maybe. I feel like that is like the second half. Like, maybe we duplicate that, and then this first time it'll do something a little bit different there. I think I'm actually going to just put these to the same notes that these are playing. Yeah, there we go. See what I mean? Like, it kind of feels like it's resolving there. With those final notes. Alright, sounding pretty cool. Let's play around with the sound a little bit. I might tweak the notes a little bit, but this is definitely a nice start. So I'm going to add some vibrato. Gives it some vibe, no pun intended. We'll also shorten the volume envelope. Cool, and then I'm using key tracking here on the filter frequency. So what that does is essentially just says like however low you play on the keyboard. Like think of it like the pitch of your notes. Like if you play a low note, it plays a low note. Same thing with this. If you play a low note, the filter will be closed, and then the higher you go, the more it opens. So kind of cool technique when you have a melody that's jumping around the octaves like this. I will detune these a bit. This is a technique I've been liking a lot lately, like having one of the oscillators be an octave and a fifth up like this, and then just detuning it so it sounds like super warped. And I think it works for this lead too. Actually, let's just try having these super detuned. But good technique there, definitely something to try in your own music. Alright, now I'm going to turn on LFO 1 and 2. We're going to put these at just kind of different times. And I'm going to have these moving the pulse width of these two oscillators. So now you can hear some movement in there. Cool, let's put some echo on here. Let's put some reverb on this as well. Nice, and then I'm gonna put a bit of saturation on this. Actually, let's use the drum bus. I use drum bus a lot, but it's like, you see why? Like when I use it, it's undeniably good, and you just can't get that with anything else. Let's copy the sidechain on here. And I'll cut out some low end as well. And I'm also going to cut a little bit of low mid-range going into the drum bus. This is a good technique because if you look at this, see how they're kind of like the loudest frequencies are like there? So what's happening then is those are getting pushed into the drum bus and then they're getting saturated even harder, and it's just like kind of messy. But if you cut those a little bit going into the drum bus, there we go, it just sounds like a regular synth. Alright, cool, just taking a moment to check on my monitors. Let's try pitching one of these oscillators up. Yeah, it's a little better. It's like, you have to think of it like, it's not just about having a good melody, you also have to think about how it fits into the track, and like, truth be told, it was kind of in the same range as this bass before, but now it's got something that kind of stands on its own. As a matter of fact, we can just do that. I guess I could have just gotten rid of that -12, but whatever. Alright, sounding pretty proper. So from here, I'm going to make a little bit of a pad, just like something, actually, you don't want to have, obviously, just a bass and a lead as your, like, only melodic elements, so we will get analog for the pad. Analog is definitely, like, my favorite synth for the style. I mean, truth be told, you can do this in, like, a lot of synths, but in terms of the Ableton synths, I just think analog has that character to it that works really well for the style. Let's get the sidechain on there. There it is. Like, we just want something kind of emotional sounding that isn't going to take up too much space. Like, it still needs to be really, really simple. So I built the foundation, just the root note and the fifth, just F sharp, C sharp, very simple. And that really is very progressive sounding as well. Just like droning on that. Like, you could probably get away with just that. But then, like I said, we're trying to get the most musical mileage, so to speak, out of everything. So then I added these melody notes up here, and these are really simple. It's just the ninth, the root note, and then the minor third. But you can hear, like, it works well with that lead. You know, it's not clashing, it's not fighting for any of the same space, and I think this is going to suit this track well. Alright, so we'll get some, we'll turn the filter down a bit, get rid of that envelope, and we'll give it some unison as well. Some vibrato. Nice. Let's put an LFO on the filter frequency a little as well. Give it some movement. We'll get some reverb on this. A bit of chorus as well. The chorus helps too because if you listen right now, and the reverb is already doing it a little bit, but like just the dry pad, you can hear it's very much sitting like, it just feels like everything is kind of like in the same space. But when we put some chorus on this, you'll hear like it's gonna kind of push it back a bit and make it fit into the mix a bit better. There we go. Put a little square wave in there. Let's cut some low end out of this as well. Alright, sounds pretty nice. Now, I'm going to add just a little bit of saturation after the reverb. Even though this is a pad, I still like to saturate it a little bit because you still want your pads to be very fat and full. And the key is just doing like, not too much, but still kind of like fattening it up. So you can hear the difference there. It's subtle, but it's going to make a big difference in the overall track. Alright, nice. Now, I want to add one more melodic layer. I don't think this is all going to be playing at once in the final track, but I want to add just a little, like, polyrhythmic arp. And what I mean by this is we're going to make a very, very small sound. Like, as a matter of fact, I'll just do it right now. Like, literally just... short attack, maybe. Like literally just something like this. And then this is just going to be doing, like I said, like a polyrhythmic arp. So what it'll do is it's going to just go up the scale here. Just like that, you can hear the energy and like what that's adding to the track. And like I said, this won't be playing at the same time as the lead always. You know, we'll use it in parts where the lead isn't playing. But it's important to check it like this and just see how everything sounds all together, because, you know, it's like if all these sounds don't work together musically, you're going to have a problem. It's going to sound weird going from different parts of the track to other parts. So, look at the side chain on there. Let's put some chorus. And so what I meant by a polyrhythm as well is you can see, so like this restarts here on this count, on the and of 2. 1 and 2 and, like that. And then everything else is happening on quarter notes, or on like a bar. But then this is like, kind of like coming in at different times like that. So that's a polyrhythm. It literally just means multiple rhythms playing at once. Let's get this one kind of sounding a bit more interesting. I'll give it some echo. And this is a sound that we can make very wide, because it's just more of like a background element. Giving this oscillator a little bit of a pitch envelope. And there we go. So you can hear how that's fitting into the mix really well now, like even better than before. I'm going to add a bit of drum bass on this. Again, we want to make everything like as full as possible. There's a difference between fullness and volume. Like, we want to make this a full and proper, well-produced sound, but then we'll just turn it down a lot in the mix. So it's still going to be a high quality and polished sound, but just like, that doesn't have to mean that it takes over the whole mix. As a matter of fact, what we could also do is give this a little bit of an auto pan. Like, what if I do something like this? We could just have it auto panning on 8th notes, and then each note will be in a different ear. Alright, cool. Let's name these. Probably a good idea for organization purposes. And now we can move on to some drums. So this is starting to come together pretty nicely. I'm going to go in here now and we'll go back to the sample pack. And I think I'm going to start with some hi-hats. Let me just get like a drum rack and I'll put these 3 hi-hats in there. And we can do something kind of interesting. The thing is, this style, as you know, it can get very repetitive. It's very like kind of just looping like this. So the hi-hats are a good place to add some interesting stuff. Like, you can play around with different hi-hats. And you can do stuff like this. You can hear how it's like just adding a lot of interesting stuff to the mix. like this. And there we go. So now we have a cool little like hi-hat loop. And then I'll add something a bit more solid underneath that. We have these shakers here. Maybe we could add like one of those. Just playing constant 16th notes so that we have that. And then we'll also have these percussions on top of it. Or these like extra percussion hi-hats, I guess you could call them. You still need that driving thing. Like you can't just have this. You need that thing that's just constantly going. You can hear what that does for the energy of the track. And I can layer that too with this tambourine. And we'll just high pass the tambourine like a lot. Alright, sounding cool. Let's put those in a group. I like to usually put my hi-hats in their own groups, so we'll get a bit of reverb on that. This just kind of like puts everything in the same room, as you can hear. And then we'll also get a bit of EQ on that, cut out some low end. These are hi-hats, we don't want any low end. And then I'll put a bit of saturation on there before the EQ as well, to tie it all together. Sounding good. Cool, and then I'm going to also add in this one, which I think we're going to shorten a little. And then that'll play on the upbeats. The key with this, I've noticed too, is that like in these style of tracks, it's not just Artbat, but a lot of other artists, they use like these shorter hi-hats like this. Like they'll have a big open hi-hat on all the upbeats, but it'll be a bit shorter than like what you would usually use. Which fits well, because you kind of want like, not like smaller sounds, but like just kind of tighter sounds. Sounds good. Just taking a second, check out how everything sounds. Let's put some EQ on this bass and kick here. The making of this track is very heavily influenced by my ADHD, as you guys can see, because we are just jumping all over the place. But cool, there we go. Alright, this is starting to come together very nicely. Okay, so the next thing will be to add like some percussion. We'll get this drum rack, and I have these 5 different percussion sounds here. We'll just put these in here and see what we can come up with. I'll also, before I do that, just grab this clap and we'll put that on the 2 and 4 real quick. Maybe I'll layer it with the snare as well. That's very progressive. Nice, we get a bit of drum bus on those. You can hear that really helps to like make them sound like one. We'll also cut out some low end. Alright, there we go. And I'm aware that I'm cutting into where the punch on the snare is. I don't want it to be hitting as hard in that range as it is. So that is intentional. We put a bit of reverb on the clap. Nice. Okay, and then yeah, now we can get these percussions. I'll just make a little 2-bar loop. Drum racks are really a great way to make like your own percussion loops, you know? It's like I feel like I'm working with this the same way I would like a loop from a sample pack. It's just, it's all my own sounds. That's cool. Then we'll put a little bit of echo on it. Then some drum bus. This is heating up. Alright. There we go. And that's a good technique as well. Like, when you're adding stuff to your sounds, you know, keep in mind, like, sometimes if you add, like, a little echo, like, if I just did the echo like this, that sounds cool, but you're not going to be able to hear that echo in the mix. So it's a good technique to, when you're adding effects, add them while you're listening to everything, because you can hear if, like, you'll actually be able to hear it, or it's actually even making a difference in the full mix. But cool, and then I'll typically put all my drums in a group, like on top of the groups that they're already in. I'll usually group them together again, just process them a little bit more together. This gives it like that final bit of polish. So let's put a drum bus on there, since this is literally a drum bus. And then you can see it really stands out. And then I'll also EQ it a bit. On there. I also like to check on the monitors pretty frequently. Okay, cool. So let's turn everything down a little bit. Cool, there we go. So now it is time to arrange the track. We have our idea here. We definitely have a very solid idea. We just have to take it and figure out how to arrange it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut everything. I'm going to paste it here. And I'm going to just start with one thing, which is going to be the kick. And then after, let's do 16, or let's do 8 bars. After 8 bars, the bass line will come in. We start with that kick. And maybe like some of the percussion as well, like we can get the hi-hat loop. Yeah, we use that shaker as well. And then here when it comes in, the tambourine will come. And this is where we can also use this ARP that I made as well. We can have this just start coming in here like with a low pass filter. I usually use a low pass filter independent of the one that's inside of analog, because you can just kind of like, I don't know, the way I'm trying to treat this is more so like, this is how I want the sound to sound, like the way it already sounds. And if I start moving the frequency of the filter inside of analog, it's going to mess that up. So if we just do it this way, yeah, you can still get that building, but without having to mess up your sound. But yeah, that's why I always do that in videos. A lot of people ask that. Alright, there we go. So we're building the energy here. I'm going to copy this stuff and put it there too. It's really starting to come together. Next thing will be to get like the clap and snare. And we can also have the pads start coming up. And that one's same deal. We'll just bring it in with a low pass. Yeah, maybe we can start teasing the lead as well. Like we could just have some of the notes play. like more notes start coming in. Nice, okay, and then I'm gonna give that lead a bit of automation as well. Like that one actually I'm gonna automate the filter on the synth just because that's how I wanna do it. Let's also change the color of those MIDI clips so we know that they're different from each other. That's always a good technique. Alright, I'm gonna keep the bass going into there. And then we'll just low pass it out. Cool, and then this ARP is going to be gone by the time that the drop comes as well. We'll filter that out through here. So also maybe keep these hi-hats going into here. It's important with this really progressive stuff to like keep the energy going like that. And then I'll give those like a reverb automation to make them kind of disappear there. And then we'll make that go back. Okay, and then once this break comes in, that's when like it'll start adding those little notes at the start as well. So you can see like chopping MIDI like this is definitely a good way to write these kinds of melodies, because like if I was to sit there and just try to write all of this out in a clip, I think I'd get pretty confused. But yeah, there we go. That just makes that transition a bit smoother. Because otherwise it was like all of a sudden this whole new thing. Nice. Now I'm going to automate the pad, and I'll automate this lead as well, but this is where we can start adding like some filter automations. Alright, so doing just a bit of finesse work here, like having those just kind of build like that. Alright, and this will be the part where we have this ARP come back in here. But we won't just get rid of this. Sounds good. And then I'm also gonna cut out the clap and snare when this drop first starts, actually. Like, we're just gonna go super progressive there. Yeah, and then when that comes in, it makes your head bob that much more. Okay, cool. So there's only a few more things we need to add. The first thing I want to add is like a little drone, which will play just in the break. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my sample packs and just get one of my own. What we can get is one of these string samples. We'll take that one, and then I'll loop it and turn the start time and the length like that. And we just need something like that in the break. So this will start coming up here, actually, and then it's going to filter down once that drop starts. And the note is just going to be a high F sharp. You know, it's a key we're in F sharp minor. Pretty simple stuff for that. And then what we can do is I'll put the side chain on it. That can be side chained pretty heavily. And then I'm actually going to just bring this one up with a utility. Cool, and we can give that like some reverb. Let's name this percussion. Sounding pretty good. And then the other thing that we need is some effects. So the first thing I'm going to get is just a little reverse crash. Again, I'm going to get one of my own. We can get, let's get this one. There we go. And then I'll just pitch that up a bit. And so this is going to be reversed and kind of doing like a every time it switches. Not every time, but some of the times when it switches to a new part. Pitch that up a little, maybe to like there. Yeah, that's cool. And this is something I hear a lot in these type of tracks as well. Like Artbat uses this. A ton of these melodic techno people just use these little reverse crashes like this. It works really well because it gives you something a little bit more alive. It's like you're hearing this super synthy and super synth heavy track, but the crash is something a bit more familiar. You know, you've heard that a lot of times. And we'll cut out some low end on that. And that can just come in these places. Nice. And the other effect that we need here is some white noise. This is very popular in these tracks, this like big kind of white noise. It's just something that you need for it to like really work the right way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the build and the drop. I'm going to make just like this one really long clip. And then we'll put in one long note. And I've got operator here. I'm going to switch this to some white noise. And then we'll get a bandpass filter. And then I'm going to automate the bandpass. So it's going to go, let's actually have it be a little bit longer. It's going to go up and then up and down, down again. And then the key here is just kind of like getting that really bright, like, kind of sound out of it, which isn't too hard with the bandpass. So we just put that there and then build it up. And then it goes down. And it's good to have it go down and up for like really long times too. Again, with anything that's like progressive in dance music, you know, it's all about progression over time. So definitely like having a long, like, pretty sure that's 8 bars. But it sounds good. It works really well in the style of track. And I'll even have it be a bit brighter at the start there. There we go. And then let's get that side chain so it's going to fit into the mix a bit better. And we'll also put some reverb on that. And yeah, you can see that's not really that complicated. Kind of like everything else in these style of tracks, you know, you just want something simple that's going to work really well. So then I will make another clip with that here, actually, just to do another little build and drop thing. It doesn't matter which note you put in with white noise, it's all the same. But yeah, I wouldn't normally be doing this so much, but like I said, in this style of track, this is what they do. And then it'll build up there. Cool, and then let's put in like maybe one more. Like we'll make a short one there. Short, relatively speaking. And then I will do that, and that, and that. And look at that. So that one's just like a little bit more subtle, but it just kind of gives you something there. Alright, sounding pretty good. So at this stage, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of mix this down a little bit more. Alright, sounds pretty good. So yeah, you can see just kind of like, you know, going in, making sure everything is right, making sure like the bass and the kick are good, kind of work with those a little bit. You know, got the percussion hitting as hard as it can be. Again, it's not like you want it to just be super, super hard hitting, but it's more about optimizing what we have. Obviously, this is somewhat smaller percussion, but it's like big, small percussion, if that makes sense. And then just kind of like mixing the synths as well, making sure the lead is as bright as it can be, all that kind of stuff. But cool, so at this stage, it's time for mastering. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn everything down just a little bit. We want the master right here to be hitting about between -4 and -6. So I usually aim for -5. Okay, cool. Sounds good. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to go on the master. I'm going to boost the low end a little bit with this EQ. I'm going to cut a bit of low mid-range at 250 hertz. And then tighten the Q up quite a bit. And then we're going to boost the high end. And then I'm going to turn this down -1 because this tends to make things a little bit louder. Cool. So here is before this, and then I'll turn it on. There we go. You can hear it. It just makes everything more focused. You know, it brings out the brightness, brings out the fatness as well with the low end. And then it's also opening the mix up a little bit in the low mid-range. This helps a lot with this style because you want it to be very crisp and I don't want to say scooped sounding, but like that low mid-range mud isn't really going to sound that good in a mix like this. So, awesome. From there, I'm going to get a little bit of saturation. I think I'm just going to put the drive up like +2 and put the output down -1. This is just going to tie everything together a little bit more. Here's without it. And then with it. So you can hear this just helps to glue everything together a little bit more. Kind of make it all feel like one. It's subtle, but with mastering, the subtleties are really what make the big difference. After that, I'm going to get a compressor. We're going to turn off the makeup gain, and I'm going to turn up the attack as well. I'll explain that in a moment. And we're just going to start compressing. Okay, so you can hear with the compression, what it's doing is it's very subtle. I don't like to use a whole lot of it, but a little bit of it is good to tie everything together. This is, like I said, just tying everything together. The saturator kind of glues everything. The compressor takes the individual volume levels of everything that is getting into it and kind of flattens them out a bit. So if you do this too much, like if you go like that, then it's not going to be good. But if you do this just a little bit, like I said, it's just evening out the volume levels. It's not like flattening them. So yeah, and then I turn up the attack just because what that does is essentially it's how long it takes for the compression to kick in. So if you look at a kick, for example, you can see we have what's called a transient. It's this part right at the start. That is where like the attack of your sound is. And if you cut that out or if you compress that, your sounds are going to be very flat. You're going to have drums that just kind of like don't really sound like drums. But if you turn up the attack a bit, it essentially, like I said, says how long it takes for the compression to kick in. So it kind of works like this. Like if you look at this one-shot mode, if I start turning this fade in up, see how like when I don't have it up, it just starts right at the start. And then with it, it fades in over the transient. It's the same thing, but with the compression. So let's go back there. Cool. And then the last thing to do here is we're going to get a limiter on it. And I'm going to turn up the gain so that we have a fully loud track hitting 0 dB. And then it's hitting 0 dB there. Let's push it a little bit. There we go. See, we still want to have some movement there. We don't want it to be like if I do like this. Yeah, that's loud. But it's completely flat. You can hear it compressing itself. You can hear if we put it up to here, we get that same loudness, which you don't quite get just putting it up a little bit like that. So we get that same loudness, but now we have a bit of dynamic range. It's not just going to be a brick the whole way through. We're cool, sounding pretty good. So at this stage, all there is left to do is listen to the full track from start to finish and hear what we just made. Alright, well, there it is. We went from a blank project file to a master track. So that's me for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file that you just heard, and all the samples and MIDI and presets, everything, the little sample pack I made, all of that is available in the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it is available. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.